Hello and welcome back to the Beefy Tech channel. If you've clicked on this video, you probably want some gloating prowess because you have a 7900 XTX or 4090, and that's exactly what I'm going to provide for you guys. So I'm going to be testing both the 7900 XTX and 4090, specifically on the Modern Warfare 3 campaign, so you guys can flex to all your friends that your GPU is better than theirs. Let's get started. Mind you, this is strictly a GPU test, so we're putting the 7900 XTX against the 4090 at high settings to begin with, and just for the sake of it, because I have a strong enough CPU, I'm gonna be putting them at competitive settings too. So let me quickly close that little overlay and go to graphics settings, and I'll quickly show you the settings that we're gonna be testing at to begin with. So, as you can see here, I've got a 1440p monitor running at full screen exclusive, 100% render res, fidelity cast upscaling set to 80%, and then we're just gonna scroll down and you can see the rest of the settings. These are basically optimized high settings in that sense. They're not just all set nuts to butts ultra, because I did get out of my way to slightly optimize the game performance, and doing that with a config file basically. So we're going to be testing these settings first, and then we're going to switch to optimized settings within the game menu, test the 4090, and then we're going on to the next system and we'll see how they both perform. Mute the game because it's extremely loud, and we'll see how it performs at ultra settings. So as you can see, to begin with, we've got some very low FPS for a 4090 at 1440p. So one thing I'm currently noticing is that the FPS is definitely a bit interesting in that it's kind of just staying below 180. Huh, interesting. Jumping over on the 7900 XTX system, let's also go over the settings quickly. Mind you, they're identical, but I just thought I'd show you. This whole display monitor thing over here is just a visual bug. Don't worry about it. It is actually using the 7900 XTX with the normal display, not the Elgato. So just keep that in mind. We go to quality settings. You'll see that I've set these identically to how I've set them on the 4090. And I'll also show you the view. And you may have instantly noticed now that we've switched to the 7900 XTX system that the performance was definitely messed up on the 4090 system. Such a big difference out of nowhere with the frame timeline being this much smoother? Yeah, no, are you kidding me? 4090 system was definitely not working as intended, but let's just test the 7900 XTX system then using this spot. So, I'm just gonna show you yet again that this is indeed high settings, and we're getting roughly 290 to 300 FPS on the 7900 XTX system, while being 100% GPU bound. So no GPU, like CPU issues or something like that. This is just the 7900 XTX performance. What we're also going to do is test what happens with the 1% lows. So we're going to enable them and jiggle our mouse around and see what happens basically. And as you can see, we're getting about 298 to 299 FPS average, with about 252 in the 1% lows, which is extremely good for ultra/high settings, and that, I'll have to say, is probably due to the slight tweaks and optimizations that we've done in the config file. With that said, the 7900 XTX is definitely showing a stronger performance than we initially saw with the 4090, but as you'll see later in the video, that was indeed just a mistake, and the performance is much closer than you'd think. And now, just for the fun of it, I applied the lowest, most competitive settings that you'd use in multiplayer Warzone to get the most FPS within the campaign. And what we're gonna do is do the exact same test and see roughly what the 1% lows and average FPS looks like. As you can see, it's roughly an 85 to 87 FPS increase most of the time, and that's actually quite reasonable, albeit not as much as I initially thought it would be going from high to low settings. But as you can see, we're getting about 386 average FPS, with about 316, 317 in the 1% lows on the 7900 XTX. Alright, so we're back on the 4090 system, and as you can see, the frame timeline is looking a bit cleaner, which I'm honestly glad to see. But the FPS still isn't insanely high. It's much better though than what it was, so clearly there was something wrong with my initial testing, so pretty much disregard the high settings testing that I initially did. Let's use this one instead. Basically, I assumed something went wrong with the shaders, because all I did to fix this was reinstall the shaders and manually reapply all of the high settings before the mission started, just to make sure everything works as intended. And quite clearly, that did make a noticeable difference in performance. So, if you have an MSI Afterburner HUD overlay in the top right hand side and your frame timeline is spiking all over the place or looking funky, then you know something's wrong and you probably need to reinstall shaders. As you can see, now we're much closer to that 7900 XTX performance that we saw. Right now, I'm gonna be starting this, and we're gonna jiggle away. And what's interesting is that we're only a couple of FPS out from the 7900 XTX. In fact, it's like, what, 2-3 FPS? No, it's basically super close, which I'm glad to see. Means if you have a 7900 XTX, you're definitely getting your money's worth. Not only that, the 1% those are also pretty much, I think, identical. Maybe slightly better on the 4090 system. Okay. So, we've confirmed that there was something wrong initially with the testing. Now, we have some more thorough results at 295 with 262 in the lows. That I'm willing to accept. Before, it was just simply unacceptable results. So, let's quickly also go back to low settings so we can compare when the system is actually working fully properly. If you guys may remember, we did actually have minor gains in quotations of only about 87 FPS on the 7900 XTX, going from high settings to low settings. Let me apply low settings on this again, and let's check the performance. Alright, I've applied all the low settings manually in-game again. As you can see, it is still the same field of view, still the same resolution. Let's jump back in and re-begin the 1% lows. And we unironically have pretty much the same exact result as the 7900 XTX. Yet again, moving the mouse a little bit, the FPS is just mildly under the 7900 XTX, which means basically a heftier overclock on either of the card would actually be the entire difference in their performance. Both my 4090 and 7900 XTX have overclocks on them, and they're gonna be in the description below if you're curious to see exactly what they are, but they're not outlandish overclocks. None of them are like, you know, golden bin cards. They're just average cards with average overclocks. And basically, the 7900 XTX inches it out by a very small margin. While it's probably not the result you guys wanted to see, since I imagine a lot of you did want to gloat, it's definitely a result, and it's probably better that it's this way because it means that no matter what GPU you have from either AMD or Nvidia that is the highest possible end, you're getting pretty much the same experience. Yeah, you AMD users can gloat that you're winning by 5 FPS in my testing, but if somebody has a better 4090, suddenly the tables have turned, so just keep that in mind that it's pretty much overclock dependent rather than graphics card dependent. Alright, I hope that was a helpful video and I hope it gave you a good idea of the performance. For those of you that are still here, you might be wondering what's been happening with the upload schedule lately, and to be entirely honest with you, I've been busy with real life, and that just happens sometimes. But to sum it up on what you guys should care about, I got an ROG phone, which makes me extremely happy. Everything else is business related that happened, but this is pretty cool and I'm happy about it. Crazy good battery life, decent camera, not great, but everything else is awesome. Love the phone. We got another bunny. For those of you that don't know, we do actually have 2 bunnies now. We used to have 1, now we have 2. I also personally have a hedgehog myself. He's really cute. They're all adorable. And basically, I'm finishing up with some more business over the next couple days, so I'm not fully back yet. There's still a little bit to go. But as of like, what, November 7th, I should be back in business with YouTube and posting quite a bit, including posting about the 14900K, which is a bit overdue at this point, but I just have not had time to be at home, and I don't even have all the parts for the 4090. 14900K, my bad. Because they take forever to deliver in Romania, and nothing is quick over here. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed, guys, and I hope to see you next time. Have a good one, and peace.